Yo, RX back with another. Well, I actually don't know what to put into that statement there, because I've never done something like this. This is not a breakdown, and it's not really a recap. It's more of a retrospective, look back, whatever. I'm not really sure the correct term, because what we're doing here, you read the title, but if you're still wondering what it means, it's gonna be looking back at Contender Series 1 year ago, Contender Series Season 8 1 year later, retrospective, whatever term you want to use. I guess retrospective would be the best term to use. This is an idea I came up with a couple weeks ago, I think, after this year's Contender Series ended, and I thought it was a very good idea. I thought it'd be a really fun idea, and so I did it. So, well, I'm doing it. By the time you're hearing this, I did it. I don't know, this idea popped in my mind. I was like, man, that's a great idea. I would love to do that. And then for the last, 2 weeks, I've been thinking about it. It's like, man, I want to do that. And finally we are. I looked back at Contender Series from this year last week. So why not let's look back at what happened last year, a year later. And I know this will age bad, and this could be meaningless in a year or two, but at this point in time, 1 year later, which I think is always good to look a year later in retrospective, why not look back and see what happened? What we think from what we know now from what we thought back then, and just have a little bit of, I guess, hindsight, I guess would be the best term for it. So I don't know, this was an idea that came to mind. It sounded like it'd be fun, so why not? Hopefully y'all enjoy it, and maybe I'll do more of these. I'll put a community thing out probably Wednesday or Thursday, seeing if y'all would like more retrospectives, because I could do this for many more things. And then we can go even farther back than a year ago. We go to Ultimate Fighter Season 1, Contender Series Season 1, and shit like that. So we could go really far back in time, and it won't be UFC 120 or 32 years later, retrospective. So, I don't know, sounds fun. I wanted to do it, so why not let's do it. Let's see how well some of this has aged, and yeah, pretty simple, so not very much else to say. I'm excited. Been itching to do this for 2 weeks, so let's finally do it. So I think I've explained what we're doing enough. We'll look back at Contender Series last year, retrospective a year later, and see how it all aged. So yeah, pretty simple. I guess with that being said, the only thing really left to say is the normal YouTube bullshit, which is, please like, comment, and subscribe. 200 subs go by the end of 2025. And as always, unless I'm going to say something, which I don't believe I am, it's that YouTube bullshit, kinda try to describe what we're doing here. Yeah, let's look back at what happened 1 year ago on the Contender Series, and see how it all aged, shall we? So, Contender Series Season 8, Contender Series 2024, whatever term you want to use, 1 year later. Let's talk about it. Let's dive right in with Week 1 on August 13th, 2024, where the season began, and this was a good start to the season. Had a couple interesting things here. Usually Contender Series starts off a pretty weak episode, but this episode is pretty strong, so let's look back at it, beginning with, I'll say, Week 1 last year, August 13th. let's look at what we had. As we start off with a bang in the first fight of the season, Lonnie Kavanaugh versus Anton Ho. Two names we know very well now. Lonnie, we know, has gone on to become one of the brighter prospects in the UFC flyweight division, and he obviously looked phenomenal here, starting off the season with a bang. One of the best finishes of the season, maybe the best finish of the season. And he took that into his UFC career so far, having 3 fights, going 2-1. Did get beat by Charles Johnson in his last fight, so, kind of sucks, but it's Charles Johnson. He beats every prospect, and Lonnie will bounce back. He's young, 26, a guy who looked like was one of the most interesting things coming off of this season, one of the brightest prospects who I think everyone was excited to see in the UFC. A year later, he still is that, even after a loss to Energy, and I'm excited to see how far this kid can go. 26 years old. He could still be a top contender in this division. He has all the talent. He showed it here. I mean, his Contender Series performance was a beautiful finish. And, yeah, so we start off the season with a bang. A W right off the bat. What else can you really say besides this was a great start? A great prospect in a division that needs anyone they can get. It sucks that he lost his last fight, but that was... It could not happen to a better fighter, like Charles Johnson, and see how far Lonnie can go. A year after the fact, 2-1 UFC, still is one of the best prospects in the UFC, and well, in the division, maybe not the UFC, but in the division right now, and he looked like that coming off this fight, and he stayed that. And then, funny enough, we did get to see Anton Ho, what happened to him after this, and yeah, it didn't go any better for him. He was someone who who had a lot of hype coming into the Contender Series, and a year later is now 0-2. We gave him a break here for losing to Lonnie, but he comes back this year and gets smoked by Enroyo Henrique, where he just got wrestle-fucked for 3 rounds. Yeah, he's not gonna get into UFC at this point, so he just doesn't have the skill for it, and yeah, that sucks. Probably one of the bigger name losers of Contender Series, at least in the last couple seasons. Just unlucky. So yeah, great way to start the season. Lonnie, great first signing. And then, funny enough, someone who just fought on Saturday, the second signing of the season, Jose Delgado, another guy who looked like a phenomenal prospect in his Contender Series fight, getting a beautiful finish, and he took his finishing ability into the UFC, getting 2 first-round finishes, his first 2 UFC fights, and then he beat Nathaniel Wood on Saturday, got completely robbed. And, yeah, another guy who, again, signing has aged pretty well. A year later, he is just coming off a win against Nathaniel Wood. He's one of the brighter prospects at featherweight. He's very damn good. We got to see him get into a real fight and go the full 15 against Wood. He looked decent. The MMA Lab, which has a lot of fighters in the UFC at this point, and most of them are pretty solid. Yeah, Delgado's good. This was a good second signing. Aged pretty well. Got a beautiful finish on a Contender Series, and then followed that into UFC. I've talked about him plenty over the last couple videos, so not really much more needs to be said. He's good. 3-0 in UFC a year later. Really damn good. What else can you say? Another great signing, back-to-back to start the season, but sadly that hot start cooled down very much with our third signing of the season, that being Bruno Lopez. Yeah, this was one that was not great. A guy who returned after his first Contender Series fight where he got beat by, I think, Bronson Ribeiro. He went away for a little bit and then came back a year later to get a contract. And he did get on second attempt. Beat up a tomato can, but did get the contract though off that finish. Which, sure, I guess he earned it at the time, but now we look at him 1-1 in the OC, beat Magomed Gadzi Ashula, there we go, in his debut, which Gadzi's cut right now. He was cut after the fight, so that should say a lot, and then got knocked out by Dustin Jacoby in his last fight, so great. Yeah, this is just light heavyweight filler, a dude who's not very good at all. Which is kind of something you'll see a lot with heavyweight and light heavyweight signings, especially looking back. A lot of them are just filler for the weight class. Like, again, you hope they turn out to be something. You're not signing them to be filler, but that's all Lopez is filler. He's nothing good at all. He probably will be cut in another year or two. I wouldn't be shocked. And, yeah. 1-1. Shitty win, fine loss to a fine opponent, but still got knocked out. Yeah, kind of the first dud of the season. Not the worst by any means. Probably better than a lot of other signings we'll talk about, but yeah, not very good at all. And the first kind of meh of the season. He's just like heavyweight filler. What else can you say? It's not like anyone was hyped for him coming off of this anyway, so not like anyone's shocked by that. Simple. Then we skip this because there's no contract. And God, this fight was shit. I remember it. And then the main event of episode 1, well, a guy we just talked about not long ago against a guy who gets talked about a little less than he was before. Main event of week 1 was Mansour Abdul Malik versus Wes Schultz. This was an interesting one. We'll talk about the winner first. Mansour, 8-0-1 now in the UFC, or in his career, 28 years old. He was the first guy to see, well, I guess Alani and Delgado, but Mansour was the first one the UFC, I think, really had high hopes for. Like, I think Dana and, like, the UFC saw him, they were like, oh, this guy could beat something. And then right now, a year later, he's 2-0-1 in the UFC, beat Dusko Todorovic, Nick Klein, shit wins, had a fight overturned with Cody Brundage, not a great look, and he didn't look great in that fight anyway. And now he's gonna beat up Antonio Trocoli, who's a complete can in December. Not great so far. I think it's a matter of time till he gets fraud checked. He's not terrible, but he's not a world beater by any means. He's a big dude. He hits hard. Do I think he stands any chance against higher level competition? No. I think guys like even Joe Pyfer might beat him. He's not really all that, and again, I think it's kind of a matter of time till he gets fraud checked. He was, again, one of the first guys who came off this season, and I was like, oh, this guy could be something. But a year later, it kind of shows I don't think he's going to be. He's kind of just, he's a big dude who hits hard, not really the most skilled, not looked great against kind of subpar. He got dropped and lost around Nick Klein in their fight. He's just not really been all that was shown on Contender Series. He, like, again, people thought he was going to be something, but again, looking back a year later, do you really think the same about Mansour as you did after Contender Series? I don't know how you could. He's not terrible. He can beat shit fighters, but do you think he has any chance of getting in the top 15? No. Do you think he has any chance of even beating, like, lower than what he beat Ikram Alishkarov? Jung Young Park? I don't know. So, I think it's a matter of time until he's fraud checked, and he's kind of he's not a flop of a signing, because he's not terrible, but he's kind of the first, like, kind of disappointing signing, where it's like, you could have done more, and so far you've kind of just been, yeah, so disappointing. I think a lot of people expected a little bit better from him, and we've just not really got what we really thought we were getting after this episode and fight, so a little disappointing. And then obviously Wes Schultz, we saw get a contract a few weeks ago in this year's season, in the final episode of the season. He came back and got a contract. Good for him. He's not good. it gets funny that he comes out, gets the contract, Anton Ho doesn't, even though Ho's a way better fighter, but in a way better weight class as well. So good for Schultz coming back from this and getting the contract. So yeah, he took a beating in this fight, but yeah, he came back from it, so good for him. So, and that was episode 1. Looking back, it gave us Lonnie and Delgado, two bright prospects right now, even though one's coming off a loss and one's coming off a robbery. Both are bright prospects. Gave us Lopez as well, who is not anything special. Mansoor, who is disappointing. And I guess Roy Schultz as well a year later, so not great for what we expected coming out of this episode, but could have been worse. Two very decent prospects is not anything to be upset about. One flop and one disappointment. That's not a bad average. It could be worse. Probably will be worse. And yeah, I can't really complain about getting Lonnie and Delgado here. Positives are high. The negatives are low, but not too low. Yeah, fine. Good way to start it, and good tone setter for the rest of the season. Speaking of that, let's head to episode 2, week 2, whatever, and I think a little bit of a downgrade, actually a complete downgrade, Jesus Christ. Not nearly as good as what we had in week 1, so this seems more like a week 1 episode than what week 1 was, but this was week 2, and yes, again, it's a pretty heavy downgrade from what we got in week 1, fighter-wise in general. So let's talk about it. Week 2, heavy downgrade from week 1, even though it does begin with the best fighter of the episode, easily, not even a debate. Beginning week 2 with Cody Haddon, again, in my opinion, the best fighter of the episode. 8-1, 27 years old, 1-0 in the UFC. Looked good here on Contender Series, and then I've only had one fight since, sadly, and is already back in October of last year, when he beat Dan Argueta in a good fight. He's a good prospect. Sadly, he has taken a Malcolm Wellmaker fight on short notice after Series City pulled out, so not a great idea there. But I respect it. It's stupid. I respect it, though. He's gonna get fucking murdered in that fight, but he'll bounce back from that. I think Haddon's a very decent prospect. Don't think he's gonna be champion or anything, but I think he could be a very solid fighter. It's, again, I wish he wasn't coming back against Malcolm Wellmaker, but, yeah, he's not bad. He's pretty decent. Best fighter from this episode, that's for sure. And, yeah, so it sucks we've not got a big sample size from, again, only one fight since this Contender Series episode, and it was October of last year, so not long after this, so hopefully we get to see him fight again. Well, we are going to see him fight again, but hopefully after that Wellmaker fight, we get to see him in a more fair of a fight. And again, we'll talk about Wellmaker in a little bit. Yeah, good luck to that, and again, best fighter from this episode, but yeah, you then taking on the next fight, but how we bounced back from that will say a lot. Decent prospect, decent fighter, best one of the episode, and not a bad way to start the episode. But it gets worse from there, don't worry. And then we had Torres Finney and Cam Ralston. Not going to talk about this yet, because Torres gets his contract later in the episode, in the season, so we'll wait on him. Ralston, another guy who returned and got a contract. We talked about him a couple weeks ago. He's not great. I don't think he's anything special, but he didn't come back and get a contract, so good for him. I don't think much of him, but whatever. Again, they need middleweights, sure. Shitty fight there, and then we get to from a shitty fight to a shitty signing in our next one, as we had in our third fight. One of the worst signings of the season, and I said that from day one, and God, did that age true. Cortavius Romulus. Oh man, did I call this to be a dud. 9-4, 31 years old, and a year later he's already cut from the UFC. He is another guy who came back for a second attempt after losing to Roman Tavares in 2023, which, great loss there. Then he did have a pretty shit fight against this Michael dude. who I think is like super old as well, so not great there. Did get a contract for some reason. And then went 0-2, losing to Gaston Bolanos, which I predicted him to lose that. Thank you. And then got smashed by Chang Ho Lee, who I believe is fighting this week. Funny enough, after Romulus missed weight for that fight, and they cut him after that. Yeah, I said he was going to be one of the worst signings of the season, and I was right. Again, already cut. Yeah, he's terrible. He's not UFC low at all. He's a complete journeyman, regional scene guy, and that showed. Like, his losses are not terrible. Bolanos and Lee are fine fighters, nothing special, but they're fine. But Romulus is just not good at all. Again, when you're cut a year after, not even a year after getting signed, you know you're not good, and, you know, take the W here in my predictions, calling him a shit signing, because God was he. And, yeah, what else can I really say? So, there you go. Not very much else to say. I predicted that to a T. Then we had an co-main week 2, our first heavyweight signing of the season, maybe the best one. I don't remember the rest of the season off the top of my head. We'll look. But a guy who probably should be pretty highly ranked in the top UFC right now if he didn't get robbed in his debut. Rizvan Kuniev, 13-3-1, one of the more experienced guys, 33 years old. Got the contract here. I think that's his second attempt on Contender Series. It was. He got the win, but it was not great the first time. Went to Eagle FC and PFL, then came back, got the win here, looked good on Contender Series, and then finally got to have his debut when he fought Curtis Blades and got robbed. And now guess we're gonna see him have a second fight in the UFC eventually. A lot of people were not happy he was on Contender Series or got signed, or was getting pushed to fight Curtis Blades, because in his last PFO fight he popped for steroids or whatever, so, you know, great. But, yeah, he's nothing special. Again, he beat Curtis Blades, to be honest. I think that was a complete robbery. And, well, at least kind of felt like it. It wasn't the worst one of the year, but it's up there. And, so that's a pretty decent debut to beat a top 5 guy in your debut. And, yeah, so Kuniev ain't great, but he's not terrible. He's not on the lower echelon of heavyweights, because God, we know how low that is. But he's not, like, top. He's not great either. Again, he should have beat Blades, but I always thought Curtis Blades is a bit overrated, so take that as you will. Yeah, fine signing here. Good addition to heavyweight. He can beat a lot of guys, but he's never going to do much. Again, he should have beat Blades, and, we'll see what they do with him next. I'm really intrigued. Shocked he didn't get on that Qatar card, to be honest, or an Abu Dhabi card, but I guess maybe next year. And, we'll see what happens. So, not really much else to say. Should be 1-0 in UFC and in the top 5 of heavyweight, but not, bad luck on decisions. Leaves them 0-1 and waiting for a second UFC fight. And then in the main event of episode 2, we had a guy who started off looking very good and, not so much lately. Andreas Gustafsson, 12-3, 34 years old, and is 1-1 in the UFC. He looked very good on Contender Series, showing his patent, just fucking non-stop style of drowning you, and that he showed in his debut as well when he fought Chaos Williams. I picked him as the underdog to get the win. Thank you. And, yeah, he was looking good. He was looking like he was going to be a pretty good prospect at welterweight. And then his last fight, Renat smoked him in 54 seconds. Yeah, that could have been better. So this guy's just gonna be an entertaining fighter, nothing else. He's not that great. Clearly his chin ain't great if Renat's dropping you in 54 seconds. Renat has good power, but Jesus Christ, not that great. And, yeah, so this is gonna be a guy who could have really fun fights, but never gonna be much in the UFC. He's already in his mid-30s. He's fine, nothing great. Sweden needs whatever they can get in UFC, 'cause I think they only have him and Jack Hermanson, so, not a lot. And yeah, he's fine. Started off looking very good after that Renat fight and dropped a good amount. And yeah, what else can you really say? Yeah, beat in 54 seconds. Not really a great look now, is it? By a guy everyone calls a fraud. Yeah, not a great aging fighter there a year later. And yeah, that's week 2. Not great. Pretty much Cody Haddon and Kunyev's alright. Outside that, the rest is shit. You had Finney and Ralston, who did get signed in the future. Romulus, who did get signed here and was awful. Gustafson, who's pretty weak. Not gonna be an episode people look back on like, man, this episode had this, and this. It had Haddon, who's about to get murdered by Wellmaker, and Kuniev, who most people hate, so not great. Definitely a downgrade from episode 1. And yeah, when going from Lonnie and Delgado to Kuniev and Haddon, not really a great one. And yeah, pretty weak. Not really much else to say. Pretty disappointing week 2 after a great week 1. Now let's get to week 3, which, let me take a look. Not great. Actually, not bad. Not bad. Couple good names there. So, week 3, a good upgrade from week 2. Definitely some better names here. Yeah, this is a much better episode in terms of talent. So, let's talk about it. Week 3. Already at week 3, 25 minutes later. This is fun. I'm enjoying this. Hope y'all are as well. After we began week 3 with our first non-contract of the night, Piccinini and Duffy. This was a complete robbery. They were meant to rematch later in the season, didn't. We'll talk about Piccinini later. And his other fight, Duffy, what the fuck he's been doing. So he got robbed in this fight. And, yeah, not a great way to start the episode. But then we have back-to-back great signings here at the beginning with the man we just talked about. Maybe the fighter of this season, a year after the fact. Malcolm Wellmaker, 10-0, 31 years old, 2-0 in the UFC so far. This guy's good. Again, he might be easily the best fighter we've talked about so far, and again, looking to make a strong case for the fighter of this season. Looked great here, got a beautiful knockout, and then got 2 great knockouts in his first 2 UFC fights against Cameron Simon and Chris Moutinho, and now he's gonna fight Cody Haddon in a couple weeks. This guy's good. This guy's really fucking good. For a bantamweight, he hits like a truck. Could he get fraud checked in the future? Maybe, because we've not seen a lot from him. We haven't seen him go past round 1. We haven't seen him in a grappling exchange. So, those are definitely worries. But so far, what we have seen, he's looked flawless. If he taps your chin, you die. And that's what you want to see, especially at bantamweight. That's great to see, much needed. And, yeah, man, he again could easily make a case for the fighter of the season so far, unless I'm forgetting someone. So far, he might make the case for fighter of the season. He's phenomenal. Can't wait to talk about his fight in a couple weeks in the Garden against poor Haddon. And, yeah, he can make a case for fighter of the season a year later. He's really fucking good. And then right after him, we get another good signing from this episode, another guy who's fighting next week, so Wellmaker in 2 weeks, and Tulio and this guy next week. And then our third fight of week 3, we have our second contract, which went to the middleweight Marco Tulio, Nora Dumont's boyfriend, 14-1, 31 years old, gonna be fighting next week. 2-0 in UFC so far, and this guy has looked good. He is a guy who came back for a second attempt on a show after beating Usuri in 2023 in a really piss-poor fight. and then obviously came back a year later and looked great, got a nice finish, got signed. I was not thrilled, but I was proven wrong with Tulio very quickly because he's looked great so far in UFC. Not great wins, but still beat Ihor Potieria and Tresean Gore in great fights and performances. And then was meant to fight Marcel Pereira. He had to pull out that, but now he's going to fight Christian Leroy Duncan in November 8th next week. So, and I'm picking him to win that fight. I think he's way better than COD. And I think this guy's a good prospect. Again, he's dating Norm Dumont, which is a W in its own right. And yeah, this guy's good. He's a very good prospect. Good kickboxing, grappling. He's obviously from Shoot the Box. This is a good signing. This is a guy who I will say I was completely wrong about. I thought he was kind of a joke, especially after that first Contender Series fight. And then I was not thrilled with him getting signed here, but I was like, fine, whatever. He's proved me wrong. He looked good. I can't wait to see him fight next week and hopefully beat the shit out of CLD. He's good. What else can I really say? This guy is, not Wellmaker good. And again, trying to follow up Wellmaker is not easy, but Tulio's very damn good, and see, maybe my tone will change on that next week, but I'm gonna say it probably doesn't. Then in our co-main of the card, in our fourth fight, we had a fight between two guys who are in the UFC now, Bogdan Grad and Michael Aswell. One of the best fights of the season. Both guys should have got signed here, but they didn't. So we'll talk about who did get signed, and then we'll talk about the loser. We'll begin with who did get signed here. The Austrian Bogdan Grad, 15-3, 30 years old, who is another guy who came back for a second attempt, which is kind of a running theme with this season, if I remember. He lost Tom Nolan in 2023, which not a great L there, but he came back here at a banger and got signed. Yeah, I'll say it was deserved, even though both guys should have got signed. And now in the UFC, a year later, he is 1-1. Beat Luke Alexander. No shocker there. Easy win. And then fought Muhammad Naimov. And just really couldn't get going there and took the L. And now he's going to be fighting Luke Riley in Qatar in a couple weeks. So people are super high on that Riley kid. So good luck to Grad. I'm not going to say he's one of the worst signings of this season, but he's not very good. He's not a UFC level fighter, in my opinion. He's very below average. He's nothing special. Like, he's fine. Again, moved down to featherweight after that Nolan fight, so that was smart. He's nothing great, like I said. Yeah, I think he's going to be a guy who's probably cut in another year or two. Not one of the worst signings. Like I said, I still think he's better than Cortez Romulus or Torres Finney. But, yeah, I don't think much of him. He's probably gonna get starched out by that Riley kid in a few weeks, and then we'll see where he goes from there. So, fine. Had a great fight here and deserved a contract, but not really anything special. And, yeah, that was about that. And then for the loser here, Michael Aswell, who is thankfully in the UFC now because he deserves to be. We know what has happened with him. He obviously took the L here, went to the regional scene, got a win, and then Dana did say they would call him up if they needed him. They finally called him in May of this year to fight Oki up weight class. Didn't work, but then after moving back down to featherweight a couple weeks ago, he looked great against Lucas Almeida. And, yeah, happy for Aswell. He's really damn good. Happy he's in the UFC now. He deserves to be. He's a good prospect at featherweight. And, we'll see how far he can go. Happy he finally got his shots in the UFC. Dana did say they would call him if needed, and they did. Happy. He's good. He deserves to be in the UFC. And, yeah, happy for him. Sure he got signed here. Took a little bit longer, but he finally got there in the end. So, good for Michael as well. And then for the final fighter of week 3, the main event winner, Andrei Pulyaev, 10-3, 28 years old, 1-1 in the UFC. A lot of these guys haven't fought a lot a year later, but we can still take a good amount from what we have seen. Pulyaev was a guy I was really high on coming off of this season, and then then he loses to CLD in a piss poor debut, and I don't feel as high on him anymore. But then he did kind of bounce back against Nick Klein, look very decent, and got to win there. Pulyaev is not bad. He's a very good kickboxer. I don't think he's going to do much in the UFC because, again, his skill gap might not be very high. I don't know if he's going to be able to beat higher echelon guys, let alone at middleweight. But he's not bad by any means, in my opinion. Yeah, a guy I was definitely higher on than most, and again, it backfired in the CLD fight, but yeah, he looked good against Klein, got to win, and see how he builds on top of that. Now, still a lot to be seen with Pulyaev, a guy I was very hyped up on just from not be all that in his debut, but he bounced back, and I'll see how far he can go. Let's see how he bounces back after, while he continues to follow up on that Nick Klein win. He's not bad. I like Pulyaev, the guy I was really high on, and good to see him doing good now after the Nick Klein win. And that was week 3. Not great in terms of like, actually, no, take it back. It was good. It was a very good week. You got Wellmaker and Tulio, the two best fighters, as well, and Grod was a banger, and both are in the UFC, though Grod's not great. Pulyaev, I guess if you want to look at like overall, you got Pulyaev as well, Tulio and Wellmaker. Not bad, very decent. Grod there as well. Not bad. Within the next couple weeks, could this look a lot worse? Yes. Wellmaker and Tulio could lose, and this could look like a terrible week of Contender Series. But if they both win, this will age pretty damn good. So, yeah, and Wellmaker could be the fighter of the season. Tulio's very good. This was good. So, but that's what I'm doing. This could age really badly. So, let's see what happens with Wellmaker and Tulio, who again will be fighting in the next couple weeks. And yeah, very decent week 3 after very weak week 2. And there you go. So not much else to really say. Then we head into week 4, which was, I think, the craziest episode of the season. A lot happened here, and it was batshit insane. I think maybe one of the most memorable Contender Series episodes of all time. Let's just get right into it. Beating with a man who needs no introductions because we just talked about him a few days ago. Opening up the card, we had Killian, Sal killed. Don't need to say much here. 3-0 in UFC since Contender Series, one of the best prospects in the sport, and at lightweight just killed Nasrat Haqparast. Falco should get a top 15 fight against Moicano next. He's phenomenal. He just had maybe the knockout of the year. What else can I say? Talked about him plenty for the recap of 321. Stole the show of that card, highlighted that card. He's great. What else can I say? I talked about him plenty over the last couple days. And then for his opponent, Gao Jiang, who is in the UFC now, he did get a short-nosed call to the UFC and is 1-1 in the UFC, lost to Evan Elder, beat Machete. He's nothing special. He's a pretty shit fighter. I think he's terrible, and I think he'll be cut in about 2 years from now, if not sooner than that. So, good for him. Another guy who did get a short-nosed call and get in UFC after this season, but overall, he's fucking terrible. What else I want? How he survived 3 rounds of Sal killed, I'll never know. So, there you go. Great start to the fucking week, obviously. And then it got better. Because then we had the highlight of the season, the biggest underdog win in Contender Series history, maybe the greatest knockout in Contender Series history, or the craziest moment in Contender Series history, whatever you want to say. We had UNC Dubin, the first female of the season, and goddamn, was it a fucking highlight. Too bad she could never follow up on that. Obviously, we all know the story of this Contender Series fight again. She was a giant underdog. She's a much smaller fighter. and then got the biggest upset in Contender Series history and maybe the greatest knockout ever. Then got sparked out by Carly Giudice in her debut, and kind of got exposed for not being that good, and that Shannon Clark was just shit. Yeah. Did Dubin have a great Contender Series moment? Yes. Will she always go down for that? Yes. Is she a shit fighter? Yes. Again, Giudice beat her, which is understandable, but still. And then she was meant to fight Kendi Freeman earlier in this year, but that fell through, so we'll see what Dubin gets up to in her next fight. I don't think she's very good. I think she'll probably be out of the UFC sooner than later, but she'll always be remembered for this amazing fucking finish and knockout, and yeah, so she'll always go down for that, but overall, yeah, she's shit. I don't know what else to say. 6-1, 29 years old. Maybe she could turn it around, but I doubt it. I think she'll be gone sooner than later, and yeah, one of the greatest Contender Series moments of all time, but if you look a year later, great moment, can't follow up on it, and yeah, she kind of sucks. So, what else can you say? Then we had another fighter I was very high on coming off of this season for him to kind of be a flop overall a year later, as we had after Dubin. How do you follow up Dubin? I don't know, but Austin Bashi tried. 14-1, 24 years old, 1-1 in the UFC. He looked good on Contender Series, a guy who was very, very hyped up coming into the fucking Contender Series. Imagine if he actually fought Tom McMillan. God, that would have been a banger. But, yeah, he looked good on Contender Series, just too loose to C-Rod in his debut. Yeah, that's not a great look, and it wasn't even one of those ones where the robbery, like Bulgarian, he got beat by him, so that's not great. But then he did get all the way up in his last fight, knocked out a couple months ago, beat John Giannis, who, yeah, Bashi and all that. Can he beat up shit fighters? Yes, his grappling is good enough to do that. Will he ever beat a competent fighter? No. If you can stop his takedowns, you'll beat him easily. He has no striking. His cardio's shit. Yeah, Bashi's another kind of a failed prospect. He's young, so I'll give him that. But outside of that, he's not very good. And you lost to C-Rod of all people, who is a tomato can. I don't care what people say. And, yeah, very disappointed in Bashi. Expected a lot better from him. But, yeah, he looked great on Contender Series. One of the guys that I was the most hyped for in the UFC after the season, but yeah, he kind of just shit the bed. So, yeah, fraud. I think he was the first fraud of the year. So, what else can I say? Disappointment. Yeah, after Salcode, man, the disappointments are strong on this one, so, then we had in our co-main another big upset and another not great signing in hindsight. The fourth fight of week 4, the Jordan Santos, 11-2, 28 years old, 1-1 in UFC, even though he should be 0-2. He won on the Contender Series as a big underdog against Will Curry, who is fucking terrible. And then obviously got signed off of that and that alone, that he was a giant underdog, and clearly signing someone because that's stupid. And now he should be 0-2 in UFC after losing to Ozzy Diaz in his debut, and he should have lost to Danny Barlow because that was a complete robbery. So, yeah. Yeah, Judge Santos is terrible. What else can I say? Did he deserve the contract? Not really. Is he good? No. Should he be 0-2 right now? Yes. Yeah, he's terrible. He'll be cut within a couple years. Yeah, he's terrible. What else am I meant to say? I talked about him plenty a few weeks ago, because, again, he did not beat Danny Barlow, and, again, only got a contract for being a giant underdog against a tomato can. Yeah, not very good. But thankfully, we did end on a high for this episode, because God, without Sal killed and this guy, this would have been a shit episode. as we have a guy fighting this week. Excited to see him again fight, as we had in our main event of week 4. The only other bright spot of this week, a year later, Seok Hyun Ko, 12-2, 32 years old, 1-0 in UFC. Did he deserve his contract off Contender Series? Probably not. He did not look very... He looked fine in that fight, but not really a contract-winning performance. But this is a time where Dana was right and we were wrong, because clearly Ko deserved the contract, because in his debut a couple months ago he fraud-checked Oban Elliott, where no one expected that to happen. And now this week he's going to fight with Phil Rowe that he should win. So, yeah, great signing here by Dana. He saw something we didn't, and he was clearly right. Ko's good. Yeah, I'll talk about him more this week. I'm excited to see him fight Phil Rowe. He should win that fight. Again, he fraud-checked Oban. Yeah, good for Ko. I think he's a good prospect at welterweight. Did not show it on Contender Series, but Dana saw what we didn't, and yeah, Ko's pretty decent. Excited to see him fight this week. What else can you really say? The only other bright spot of this Contender Series episode. And there you go. That was week 4 on paper, and when it happened, maybe the best Contender Series episode of the season. It was great. Whatever. A year later, Dubin got fraud checked, and she's not very good. Bashi got fraud checked. Santos wasn't good to begin with. But we did get Salkeld and Ko. We keep getting these episodes where it's really like 2 good fighters. This episode it was Salkeld and Ko. Salkeld might actually be the fighter of the season. Over Wellmaker so far, I'd say he probably is, because he's shown a little more as a Wellmaker. And he's good. We're getting him and Ko, who hopefully that H is good, hyping up Ko after this week. That was good. Dubin, Bashi, Santos, not good. So, but to get Salkeld out of this episode, very good. And, yeah, very good in terms of getting 2 good fighters, 3 duds, but happens. And again, a year ago, that was a great episode of Contender Series and a lot of good shit. There's a lot of hype for a lot of them. A year later, a lot of them kind of fell through, but Salkeld and Ko definitely carrying that week. And then finally we get to the halfway point of the season with week 5, which was a 4-fight episode, because we'll talk about it in a second. So 4 fights here. Yeah, okay, and don't love to see a 4-fight card, but with what happened, it's understandable. Let's talk about it. I always remember this episode, especially being week 5, because it was 4 fights, the last card not to be 5 or more of Contender Series, and hopefully it stays that way. Let's talk about the halfway point of the season. Why was this 4 fights? Because this Otoni dude got scared before the fight with Steele and pulled out like during the card or whatever. So thankfully we did get to see Cody Steele later in the season. This dude we never saw again. What a pussy. But we still got 4 fights, and we began with another female fight getting a contract. Another one that didn't age well either, as we began week 5 with Nicole Cagliari, 8-4, 28 years old, 0-2 in UFC. Yeah, this has been another flop of a signing. Another fighter I was very interested in to see how she does in UFC, and a year later, not very good. She looked good on Contender Series, but then went in her debut against Ines Jakarsketa, lost, but it wasn't an awful performance. But then a couple months ago, she got destroyed by Carly Judice. I see a Kay Hansen lost down there, great. Yeah, Cagliari ain't very good. Looks like she's just gonna be another OnlyFans fighter. I doubt she is signed by this time next year, unless they give her a super layup for her next fight. Another just fail of a signing. Looked good on Contender Series and then failed in UFC. Seems like something that happens very commonly with the female fighters, sadly. But what can you do? She showed her best work when it mattered, and then has been pretty shit since. Yeah, not a great not great. Usually better than Dubin, probably overall as a fighter, but that ain't saying much. And a year later, another failed female signing. So, and at strawweight no less, which needs anything they can get, so great. And then speaking of failed signings, Jesus Christ, wow, was this pathetic. Our second fight of week 5, Josias Musasa. I don't need to waste your time here. I've ranted about this can enough in the last couple months. 0-2 in the UFC, lost to Carlos Rivera and Colby Thickness. Maybe the worst fighter of this. Okay, I won't say that, but one of the worst fighters of this season. He's worse than Cortavius Romulus, Torres Finney. This dude's fucking terrible, pathetic. What can I say? Probably didn't deserve to get signed to begin with because his fight was shit, and then add on to that, he's shit. Yeah, what else can I say? Fucking terrible. One of the worst signings of the season in hindsight. Then in the co-main we had Yusuri Bilagori, who I talked plenty about last week. Just don't think he's good. He didn't get a contract here for a reason. He's a complete weight bully, and fuck him. There you go. And then the only bright spot of this episode in the main event, Naviho Sterling, 8-0, 27 years old, 3-0 in the UFC, where for some reason after Contender Series he lost any ability to finish a fight, because he had 3-0 in the UFC, 3 decisions against Tuco Takos, Ivan Nurse-Fan, and Rodolfo Bellato, 3 guys he probably should have finished, but no luck there. And yeah, so he is the bright spot of this episode for sure. Even though he's not the greatest in the world, I do think eventually he will get fraud checked. He's not gonna make it to the belt or anything. He's not bad, but I think he's kind of just a worse Carlos Alberg. Like, he's a good point fighter. He's a lot like Israel Adesanya, which is not a good thing. And he's not terrible, but I don't think he can be a champion. He could be top 15 because light heavyweight's so shit, but I don't think he has the potential to go any higher than 11th, 10th in the division. Never gonna be a champion or top 5 or beat the higher echelon guys. He's fine, but again, he looks better because everyone on this episode was shit. And again, his knockout here was great. He looked like he was gonna be a great prospect. But then he's 3-0 in UFC with 3 decisions, 3 boring decisions against guys he should have finished. What else can you really say when a year after a great contract-winning performance on Contender Series, you are now a point fighter who has underwhelming fights against tomato cans. So there you go. The best thing of this episode, but that's not saying a lot. So there you go, week 5, a one-fighter episode really. Calori's been a flop, and Musasa is shit. Yusuri didn't get signed here, and he's shit. Thank God for Sterling here. Even though I think he's a bit overrated, he's not terrible compared to his fellow Contender Series alums here. He looks amazing. And he was the only good thing on this episode in hindsight. So, not a great halfway point in the season. Again, only having 4 fights doesn't help. And yeah, could have been much, much better. So that's the halfway point so far. We're already 53 minutes in. We got 5 more weeks to talk about. Good first half, a lot of good fighters like Salkill and Wellmaker. We got 5 more weeks to talk about, so let's not waste any more time and get into them. And because we got to talk about them, we have more to talk about after the fact, so this is going to be a long one. Let's get into it. And we'll be in the second half of the season, which is week 6, which is it's a mixed bag. Some really good and some really bad. Some really, really bad. So, let's get into it. Week 6, the start of the second half of the season. beginning with the worst signing of the season, because he didn't even make his debut before getting cut. Not even gonna say his name, he doesn't deserve it. Maybe the worst person ever signed in Contender Series history. All you need to know is he got cut before his debut for doing very, very fucked up shit. Fuck him. He deserves to rot in jail, and he's a piece of shit. So, the worst signing of the season, and maybe the worst person ever signed in Contender Series history. If you don't know, Google it, but you probably don't want to know. Take my word for it. This guy's a piece of shit. But thankfully, after him, we get another guy who has taken over in the year since getting signed. Another one of the better signings of the season. Maybe the scariest man in the UFC right now, DWCS. 9-1, 23 years old, which I still doubt. 3-0 in UFC. Do I need to explain DWCS to you? Looked great on Contender Series. Has looked even better in the UFC, crushing Jose Medina, Robert Valentin, and Tristan Vines in less than a round. He's one of the scariest fighters in UFC right now. He's very fucking good, and yeah, a year later, him, Salkill, and Wellmaker all in contention for the best fighters this season, and Gutierrez making a good case for it. So, scariest fighter of the season, that's for sure. The guy no one wants to fight. Why would ya? Francis Ngannou 2.0. Hopefully he doesn't get fraud checked like Francis and can't stop a takedown, but I think he'll be just fine. This dude's great. I don't need to tell you that any more than you already know. Again, him and Sal killed high on the totem pole for best fighter of the season. Then we had a complete robbery. I remember this being a shit fight and a robbery. Both guys sucked anyway. Then we had the fourth fight of the card, the co-main of the card, and our, I think, second heavyweight signed. There's not been many, but I believe there's a few in the second half of the season. Our next signing at heavyweight was Taoshin Teixeira, 8-1, 25 years old, 1-1 in the UFC. Yeah, I don't need to go in depth here, do I? Beat Justin Tough in his debut, got fraud checked and smashed by Derek Lewis in his last fight. He's tall, about it, he sucks. Yeah, he's a fraud, and what else can I really say? Yeah, we all know by now. We watched him get fraud checked in about 36 seconds by Derek Lewis. Because again, he's just really fucking tall, and that's it. He sucks. Simple. And then we had in the main event the last bright spot of this, the only other bright spot of this episode, and we'll talk about the opponent in this one as well, as we had in the main event Elijah Smith versus Aaron Tao. Beginning with Elijah Smith, 9-1, 23 years old. Another guy who's in contention for maybe one of the best fighters of the season, 2-0 in UFC right now. Obviously beat Aaron Tao here, which is actually one of the better wins of the fucking season so far in hindsight. And then his 2 UFC fights so far, he's beat Vince Morales and Toshomi Kazama. Morales, that was a good test for him. He went into a dogfight with a veteran and came out the winner. But then his last fight against Kazama, he had probably the knockout of the year still. I forgot about it for a little bit, but now that I'm thinking about it, yeah, it's probably still my pick for knockout of the year, but there's so many. As when he power bombed Kazama through the apex cage. Brutal, beautiful. This kid's a legit prospect. He's 23, very good. Dad was in the UFC or whatever. We all hear about that every time he fights. He's good. He's definitely named to watch out for at bantamweight. He's good. Keep an eye on him. Watch him. Yeah, a year later, he's one of the better prospects at bantamweight. He might have the knockout of the year in 2025. And, yeah, the only other really good thing to come from this episode, so what else can I say? Elijah Smith is very fucking good. And that was week 6, the start of the second half of the season. not great. Kind of a 50-50 split. Smith and Gutierrez were great signings. Teixeira and the piece of shit were not. So yeah, one of the best signings of the season, a great prospect, a fraud, and a piece of shit. The worst signing of the season. Weird, very weird week, but a decent way to start the second half of the season. It was not bad, but in hindsight it could have been much better. And yeah, I got Gutierrez and Smith out of it, two great fighters. See how their careers continue to play out, both 23 years old. This could be a very good episode looking back, depending on how far these guys can go. Just had some bad things happen on this episode, signing-wise, but not bad. Good second half. Good start to the second half of the season. Then we head into week 6, which, not great. B starts really good, ends pretty bad. Let's talk about it. Not a really strong episode, at least on the top. The bottom is stronger than the top, actually. So let's talk about it. As we'll begin with the first successful female signing of the season. And we start week 7 with Alexia Cianara, 13-1, 27 years old. Someone we just talked about a couple weeks ago. 2-0 in UFC so far. Got the win here against this Rose chick as I believe an underdog on a contender series. Looked good enough to get signed. And her 2 UFC fights so far. She subbed Molly McCann in England and beat Luma Bume a couple weeks ago. Yeah, she looks really damn good. She's now in top 15. One of the few fighters here this season was already ranked a year later. And she's good. She's young still. She's a very good prospect at strawweight. Again, she's already ranked. Beating Luma Bume is a legit good win for your second UFC fight. Yeah, she's good. Like, easily the most successful woman of the season, unless I'm forgetting someone in the next couple weeks, which I don't believe I am. Yeah, she's good. What else can I really say? She wasn't the flashiest on Contender Series in terms of her winning style, like Kalari or Dubin, but she runs circles around them because she's just better. And a year later, she's again already ranked and looks like a very good prospect in the division. What else can you really ask for? Great signing. Okay, a year later, fantastic. Speaking of great signings, and another fighter who could easily make the case for the best fighter of the season, and our second fight of the night, and again, easily can make the case for maybe the best fighter of the season, Kevin Vallejos, 16-1, 23 years old, 1-1 in UFC, or 1-1 on Contender Series, 2-0 in UFC. He's a guy who was another guy coming off a second attempt. He fought Gene Silva in his first attempt when Gene Silva and the Fighting Nerds didn't suck. And then a year later, he got a shot against Cam Teague, who we know is a complete punching bag. Another guy we got to see return this season, lose again. You know, great. And then in his first 2 UFC fights, Vallejos ran through Sung Woo Choi and had a good fight with Danny Silva. Vallejos is very good. Like, he is very, very good. He has the potential to be one of the best fighters of this season. Everyone's high on him, everyone's excited to see him fight. He's, again, very talented. Sung Woo Choi was a layup win, but Silva's a pretty good win. Danny Silva, that is. Yeah, a lot of people are high on this kid. I don't blame him. He's really fucking good. And again, in 3-4 years from now, if he's in the top 10 of featherweight or maybe even a champion, would you be shocked? Not really. I throw him in there in the higher tier with guys like Salkil, Gutierrez, etc. as one of the best fighters of the season. He's great. What else can you really say? Can't wait to see him fight again. That kid's special. And then you get to the shit portion of this card. A lot of bad signings here. 2 of them fighting this week. Funny enough, so I'm not going to say a lot about these guys, but talk about them a little bit. Let's begin with the third fight of the night, our third signing of the night. The only man left to debut from this season who got signed and didn't get cut. Kevin Christensen, 9-2, 30 years old, making his UFC debut this week. Finally. Not really gonna say a lot, because a year later, nothing has changed, because he hasn't fought in a year. I don't think he deserved to get signed, and I do think he's one of the worst signings of the season, but he has all the chances in the world to prove that wrong this week, so let's see if he can. So, again, the only guy left to debut from this season who got signed, or from the season we're talking about right now. Let's see how he does this week. Yeah, I'll talk about him more for the breakdown on Friday. And then another guy fighting this week, the guy who got a contract in the co-main event, our fourth signing of the night, Daniel Frunza, 9-3, 31 years old, same birthday as me, oh yeah. 0-1 in UFC, got a contract here after beating a fraud who had a really padded record. And then in his UFC debut, he had a banger, but still lost to Reese McKee. Not a great thing to start off with there. And now he's going to fight Charles Ratkeys this week, and probably going to lose again, so great. Yeah, not much to say about Frunza, even less good to say about him. I don't think he should have got signed to begin with, and I think he's going to lose again this week. How do you lose to Reese McKee? Again, another guy I'll talk about on Friday, but at least he actually has fought, unlike Christensen so far. And yeah, I just don't think he's very good, so not really sure what else to say. We'll talk about him on Friday. Probably not too highly. Yeah. And then in our main event, we had another heavyweight signing, and this one really blew up in their face quickly. Another guy who is not cut, but suspended before he could even have his debut. The final contract of the night in the main event, the heavyweight Daniel Voyavodkin, 7-0, 25 years old. Got to win here, I believe, as a big underdog, and looked good, got to finish, got the contract, and then he got suspended, I believe. He is, I think, suspended for a year or two. He's not cut, he's still on the UFC roster, but he is, I believe, suspended for a year or two, and yeah, we won't see him till a while still, so, you know, great. Always gonna get suspended before your debut for some fucking substance. So really can't give this guy a grade yet or an opinion. So I guess I take back what I said about Christensen. This will be the last guy who we see debut from this season, but again, he's suspended, so it's gonna be a while. We'll see. Maybe he's good, maybe he's not. Can't really say much when he hasn't fought and he's suspended for a year or two, so great. And that's week 7. What a tale of two different stories. You have 2 great signings to start off the card, and then 3 shit ones to end it. One dude who hasn't debuted yet, but is finally going to this week. One dude who lost to Reese McKee in his debut and trying to lose again this week. A guy who was already suspended before his first fight. Great, and mixed in with 2 great signings. Thank God for Theonara and Vallejos, because without them, this episode would have been a joke. And, yeah, so again, we'll talk about Frunza and Christensen more this week, because they're both fighting. Hell, maybe them fighting on the same card will help them win again, who knows. But, yeah, this was definitely the Vallejos and Theonara episode. The rest, a year later, was shit. And again, these two didn't even deserve to get signed anyway a year ago, so no wonder they suck. And then you're already suspended, so good job, dickhead. Yeah, week 7, thank God for Vallejos and Theonara, about really all you can say. Next, week number 8. Yeah, another kind of 2. Oh, actually, I lied again. There's another fighter who hasn't debuted yet, so I forget. I can't believe there's still fighters who haven't debuted a year later. Ugh. But, so another episode that's not very strong, to say the very least. 2 good signings mixed in with not great ones. I think the first half might have been a little bit better, but let's talk about week 8, which is another one that's not very strong, but it does start strong as we began with another very good signing, another guy who's very good. To begin week 8, Jacoby Smith, 11-0, 29 years old, 2-0 in UFC so far. He looked great here on Contender Series, a guy who a lot of people were hyped up for after this. I think he's some wrestler in Oklahoma or whatever, so he had really good wrestling. But he didn't need that in his debut when he sparked out Preston Parsons in under 2 minutes. He looked great there, and then had a very tough fight with Nico Price. Did get to win, but probably a little tougher than it should have been. And now, but he still got to win, and now he's 2-0 going into 2026. It would seem a year later from when he got signed. He's decent. Still a lot of worries about him. I kind of look at him as a worse Elijah Smith. I don't know why. They both are very good, but I think Elijah's a little bit better. Jacoby's good. He's pretty, 29. Somewhat young, 11-0 at welterweight. I think there's better prospects at welterweight than him. But he's not bad. I don't think he's gonna go super far. I could see him getting fraud checked sooner than later. But he's not bad. He's solid. Not a terrible fighter by any means. But I think we definitely have a ceiling. I don't think he's gonna reach a ceiling of a top 15 guy or anything. He's good, but he has his ceiling in. Yeah, not really much else to say. He looked good, and so far he's looked fine in the UFC, but I think he has a limit, and yeah, I just don't think he really is all that, to be honest. He's good, but not as good as I think we were projecting him to be after the Contender Series, if that makes any sense. I don't know, I'm not trying to shit on the guy. I think he is good, but I don't think he's going to be some top 15 guy. There you go. He's still good, though. Then we had the meme, the joke, whatever you want to say, the joke signing of the season. Torres Finney, a guy who I still say never should have got signed. God, did he prove me right in his first fight. Took 3 attempts on the show, finally got signed. Fought Robert Valentin, one of the worst fights of 2025. And yeah, everyone hates him because he's not a real fighter. He's terrible. He just spams takedowns. Yeah, he sucks. Fucking one of the worst signings of the season. He's not a fighter. He's kind of just middleweight John Almeida. What can I say? He sucks. Fuck him. I hated him from his first fight through his second and third fight on Contender Series. And I still hate him, so fuck him. Then we had obviously the star of this episode, the best signing of this episode. In our third fight are the already top 15 ranked David Martinez, 13-1, 27 years old, 2-0 in the UFC. Had a great performance here on Contender Series, and then ran through Simon Oliveira in his debut. Then found his way into a top 15 fight with Rob Font after some cancellations. And he actually won that fight. Looked decent. It was close, but he did get the nod. And yeah, a year later, Martinez is already ranked. He's one of the better prospects at bantamweight. He's really damn good. Pretty young. Him and his Melissa became, I think, the first brother-sister duo ever in the UFC, even though she's already cut a year later. And yeah, what can I say? David, definitely a star of the season, of this episode. It's good. Again, I think him and Alexia are the only two who are already ranked a year later. And yeah, he's really good. What else can I say? He's already in the top 15 a year after getting signed. That's impressive. Then we had in the fourth fight of the night, our co-main of the night, and I believe, and I hope I'm finally right here, the only other fighter not yet to debut from this season. Christensen will make this guy the only one left. We have the only fighter after this week to not debut from this season, Alberto Montez, 10-1, 31 years old. Yeah, he still hasn't debuted. He had a debut booked in April. That didn't happen. He pulled out of that. And Yeah, it's still nothing. So after Christensen fights this week, Montez will be the only fighter left this season not to make that debut. Hopefully he does eventually, 'cause I remember him not being that bad. I think I do remember liking Montez and thinking he was pretty decent. So hopefully he can fight eventually. And yeah, let's hope sooner than later, because again, not really much to say, because a year later, the same spot he was a year ago when he got signed. He is in the UFC now. That's it. We haven't seen anything from him. So, not counting the guy who was suspended, Montez will be the only guy left not yet to debut from the season after this week. Hopefully 2026 we'll see him. Yeah, crazy that a year later, still people who have not yet debuted. Crazy. And then we got someone who was probably better if they never debuted in UFC, because god, this guy's been a complete flop so far. As in our main event of week 8, we had the final fighter signed, and make a case for one of the worst. Dayar Nurgazai, 10-2, 28 years old, 0-2 in the UFC. Yeah, the guy who kind of can say, oh, he had a funny twitch, he got a good head kick knockout, yada yada. And now a year later he's 0-2 and could make a case for cutting him. Obviously, he lost his debut and his O and all that, missing weight and all that against Brenson Hibero, which is terrible as is. And then he fought Erwan Saltibaldiev in his last fight a couple months ago, a guy who was better than Hibero, so he beat him even quicker. And yeah, no, Nurgazai's 0-2. I say you should cut him. And yeah, he's terrible. I don't know what to say. He finds the weirdest ways to get submitted, and you lost to Brendan Hibero, so enough said there. Yeah, this dude's terrible. Like, he looked decent on Contender Series at the end of go funny twitch, good head kick, but yeah, a year later, yes, it's been a complete joke, and yeah, he is gonna be cut by this time next year. He'll probably either get one more UFC fight and lose, or he'll just get cut now. He's shit. What else can I say? You lost to Brenton Hibero. Ugh. And yeah, that was that for week 8. A very weird one. You got 2 really good signings, 2 shit ones, and 1 who hasn't even debuted yet. Awesome. Thank God for David Martinez and Jacoby Smith this episode, because without them, this would have been another pathetic episode, because Torres and Dyer are shit, and Montez hasn't even debuted yet, so thank God for David and Jacoby, and mainly David, because, again, Jacoby's good, but David's very good, and again, already in top 15, something these guys will never say. Weird week 8, 2 cans, not debuted yet, and 2 good fighters. It seems like that's the pattern. And, yeah, pretty, gotta say now, this season's been super weak. Let's see if week 9's any better. Good week. Not a great week for week 8, but Dave Martinez is really good, so they got lucky there. Then we head into week 9. Does it get any better? Yes, kind of. I think yes and no. So probably the best week so far, kind of like overall talent. Maybe I think, I don't fucking know. The second half of the season has been really weak for talent, but this episode is not too bad. Let's talk about week 9, second to last one, and we begin with I believe week 10 has all contracts. I believe the last fight of the season where neither guy got signed. First fight of week 9, not a great fight. Neither guy, I don't remember either guy being that good. I remember that being a debatable decision, so nothing to say there. But then we had our first of 2 really good signings on this episode, being the second fight of the night, and our first signing of the night, the German Islam Dulatov, 12-1, 27 years old, 1-0 in the UFC. Yeah, this dude's good. Model boy. Literally not even an insult. He is a model. Looked amazing here. One of the best knockouts of the season. on Contender Series, and then made his UFC debut finally during the summer against Adam Fugit. I ran through him in a couple minutes. This guy's good. This guy's good. He hits hard. He has good power, good striking, grappling. We didn't really get to see any of yet, but he does have 5 submissions. Who knows how his cardio is? We never got to see a lot of him yet, but so far he's not bad. So far, 2 fights in Contender Series and UFC, really 1 fight in if you only want to count that. Yeah, he looks really good. Looks to be a really good prospect. Excited to see him fight again, hopefully sooner than later. I wish he was a little more active because he's taken no damage in these 2 fights, Contender Series and his debut. So, I wish he was a little more active, but he's still young. He looks really good so far, and see how far he can go. Just wish we had a bigger sample size than we really do with Dulatov, but give it time. Then we have maybe the best fighting of this episode so far. You know, I think Dulatov's a better fighter. This guy has shown a little bit more, and we just talked about him a couple weeks ago. In our second signing of the episode, and another double header of good signings. These 2 are the best 2. Joining Dulatov in the good corner, we have Mario Pinto, 11-0, 27 years old, 2-0 in UFC so far. Just talked about him a couple weeks ago for looking really good. Obviously Pinto looked good here, getting the Contender Series W, and then his first 2 UFC fights, he's knocked out Austin Lane after a shaky round 1, but great round 2. And then he ran through Johanta Deniz a couple weeks ago, showing off amazing grappling, and getting the win there. And Pinto looks good. Pinto looks really good. He's a good prospect. Obviously he has good striking and power. We got to see really good grappling from him in that Deniz fight. This guy's good. This guy is a very interesting prospect. Could be a really dangerous one again with that grappling upside. Something a lot of guys don't have in that division with the good striking that he does have. This guy could be good. Excited to see how far he can go. Very young still. Still improving. This guy's good, even though he pretends he doesn't know English, but he knows English. Outside of that, yeah, this guy's good. This could be definitely a guy who kind of falls under the radar, but again, maybe one of the better signings of the season. They're easily the best heavyweight sign, unless him and Kuniev, and I think he's a little bit better than Kuniev. And yeah, a year later, this guy's really fucking good. And excited to see how far he can go. After that, we had the co-main of week 9, our 3rd signing of the night. Another guy who was super hyped up, just to super be disappointing. We had a guy Dana really was high on, but just another guy who was kind of a flop so far. Cody Steele, 7-1, 30 years old, 0-1 in the UFC. He looked very good here, beating Chase and Blair, another guy we saw this year on Contender Series get beat up again. So he looked good there. Obviously, Steele was doing a lot of that grappling shit in UFC, whatever. He was grappling a lot. He's a grappler, but he did know how to strike there. I'll give him props. And then, in the UFC debut, he did lose, taking an L to Rong Zhu in a banger, but a fight he'd still lost. And I guess that has aged pretty well. Rong Zhu is looking like a very good fighter right now. And Cody did fight him in a striking match, so I'll give him props there. But yeah, still lost, and looks like he's gonna not fight again in 2025. Going 2026, see if he can bounce back. I doubt he's gonna do much in UFC. Like, he's not terrible, but I think he's gonna be a pretty mid fighter. I could see in like another year or two from but in the next 3 or 4 years, I could see him being like a 3-2 fighter. He's not great, but he's nothing awful either. He's fine. Too much hype for a guy who wasn't all that. And I'm not saying he's a can, but he's fine. And he just got too hyped up. So we'll see how he bounces back after that L when he does eventually fight again. And yeah, that's about that. we'll see how he bounces back after that L. Maybe we can get that hype back he had. I don't know what else to say. And then in the main event, our final contract winner of Week 9, even though you're wondering, why haven't we seen him in the UFC? I'll explain that in a second. As we had the final contract winner of Week 9 in the main event, Artem Vakitov, I forget how you say it, 3-1, 34 years old. So RX, you ask, why have we not seen Artem in UFC after a year? Because not long after he got the contract, he decided to not sign it or whatever and go back to Glory. And Glory Kickboxing, because I guess they paid better or whatever. Yeah, I think that's coward shit, pathetic, whatever. You need, like, of course the UFC's not gonna pay you super great off Contender Series, you gotta earn that payday, but he wanted to go back to Glory. Clearly that didn't work out since he lost his return fight there. And yeah, I was excited for this guy. I had a lot of hype for him coming off of Contender Series, but again, you could make a case for one of the worst signings because he never even made it to his UFC debut. Yeah, he decided to run away back to kickboxing and stay and get the UFC contract, so coward shit, got scared, and fuck him. Pretty simple. And that was Week 9. Another week kind of carried by two really good signings, and Dulatov and Pinto. Steely's kind of and Artem ran away, so really a 3-person week in terms of signings, and only 2 were good. Not bad, a little bit weaker than some other ones, but again, Dulatov and Pinto are good. Can't really say much bad about them. Steely's not amazing, but we'll see if he can bounce back. Artem, again, not a great signing there. Fine, nothing great. What can you do? Got Pinto and Dulatov out of it. They're good. Fine, second to last episode. And speaking of that last episode, let's get into it. Week number 10. Finally, now we're gonna have later. Our final week to talk about, and it was a very decent one. This is a very decent one in hindsight. Couple really good fighters here, couple bad ones as well. 5 more fights, week number 10. An hour and a half later, let's talk about it. How did we end Contender Series 2024? Well, we started the final episode with a bang, beginning with our first fighter signed from it. The Australian, who sadly we did not get to see fight a couple weeks ago, but hopefully sooner than later. Jonathan McAuliffe, 8-1, 26 years old, 1-0 in the UFC. He looked really good on Contender Series, getting a finish of the guy he was fighting, taking his O. And then the UFC debut, he was, I believe, a pretty big underdog against Kevin Jusei, and he destroyed him, looked great. And that's pretty impressive. I think Kevin Jusei is a pretty decent fighter, and for him to run through him like that's impressive. And yeah, he looked good in the debut. Sadly, did not fight Oban Elliott about a month or 2 ago, because Oban pulled out because he was scared. And now we wait to see Johnson fight again. I like McAuliffe. I think he's a good fighter. I was impressed with his debut. I was picking him to beat Oban Elliott as the underdog. Somehow he was the underdog. Yeah, I'm excited to see him fight again. He looks to be a very good fighter. Looked great in the debut against Jusei. Can't wait to see more from him. And yeah, let's see what we get from him in 2026. Hopefully a couple fights out of him. Excited. I think he's a Whitaker training partner. See what he can do. Wish we got to see him beat up Oban Elliott, but just got unlucky. Then after that, we had the biggest snub of the season contract-wise, the fighter who got completely robbed of a contract. And in the second fight of week 10, we had the biggest snub of the season, Julieta Martinez, 9-0, 21 years old. She looked phenomenal here in this Contender Series fight. It should have not been a split. Don't take that into consideration. She dominated here, looked great, but Dana said she was too young to get signed, even though you have Raul Rosas on the roster, and she is way better than Raul Rosas. Don't question it. It's bullshit, but hopefully Julieta gets signed sooner than later because she is a UFC level fighter. She's very fucking good. And again, I don't know how she didn't get signed a year ago, but Dana's a fucking idiot, so what do you expect? She already has won another fight since back in March, and hopefully we see her get signed to UFC sooner than later. I don't know what else she has to do to get signed. She got completely fucked here, and yeah, Dana's a fucking idiot. She is way better than Raul Rosas, and you signed him when he was younger than she is. Stupid. She got fucked over. The snub of the season. And yeah, what else can you say? Then we have another guy fighting this week, so I won't say a lot here. And then our third fight and our second contract of the night, we had Yadir Del Valle, 9-0, 29 years old, one known UFC. Had a very fun fight around Contender Series. Couldn't finish the guy because he's so goddamn tough. But then his UFC debut back in May, he ran through Connor Matthews, as he should. And now, this week, he's getting a very tough fight against Isaac Dolgarian. Cannot wait for that fight. One of the best fights on the card. Can't wait to talk about that during the week. So I'm not really going to say much about Yadir here. I think Del Valle's a very good fighter. He looked very good. His first two fights I've seen of him. Excited to see him fight Dolgarian this week. I don't know who I'm picking to win that fight. That's going to be a great fight. Can answer a lot of questions about Del Valle. And can't wait. That should be a banger. Can't wait to see him fight this week. What else can I really say? But sadly, that was the last good signing of the season. And yes, we got two more to talk about. Oh joy. Let's talk about them. And then the second last signing of the season, second last fight of the season, we had our next signing, Luis Gurule, and obviously Nick Piccinini, who we talked about before. They really wanted to sign, but he just sucks. But speaking of fighters who suck and they signed, Luis Gurule, 10-2, 31 years old, gonna be 32 in November, 0-2 in UFC. Did he look great here on Contender Series? No. Did he really deserve to get signed? Probably not. And that's even looked more true so far in his UFC run. 0-2 so far. Got knocked out by Ode Osborne in his debut. Not the greatest start. And then lost to Jesus Aguilar a couple weeks ago. Not much better. He's just not a good fighter. He has no chin, which at flyweight's almost insane how you are that chinny. And he's just not very good. Like, Ode and Jesus are fine, like veterans, but they're nothing special. They're not really guys you should be losing to if you're some, like, next up good prospect, but he fucking lost to them, so I think Gurule's terrible. I talked about him for the Noche card after he fought on that. I think he's terrible. If they cut him now, I don't think I would mind, but I do think he'll get one more fight. And, yeah, I think he'll lose that as well. He just has no chin. He's not really that great of a fighter. And, yeah, just not a very good signing. Lost to very mid fighters in the division. Just not all that, really. Probably didn't deserve to get signed anyway, because Piccinini is shit. So, not even a good win. Or a good fight. So, there you go. And then lastly, our final fight of the season and our final contract of the season. We thought we ended on a high, but in hindsight, this was a low. We had in our final fighter and contract of the season to end season 8, 2024. We had Nick Klein, 6-3, 30 years old, 0-2 in the UFC. I will say he was a guy I was super hyped for after Contender Series. He looked amazing here, running through the Souza guy in short order, on short notice. He seems like a great guy, got the win, awesome. And then he got unlucky, and he's not very good at the same time. He fought Mansour Abdul Malik in his debut on short notice. Why would he take that fight? I don't know. He didn't do too bad in round 1, took round 1, but then got finished in round 2. Okay, fine. And then his last fight against Andrei Pulyaev, he kinda did the same thing. He looked very good in round 1, gassed and got finished in round 2. He's not very good. He was meant to fight Dante Johnson this week. He pulled out. He'd have lost that fight as well. And, yeah, he's not gonna be in the UFC by this time next year. He's just not great. His striking is non-existent. His ground game's good when he's not gassed, but when is he not gassed? He gasses in a couple minutes. And, yeah, he's a really good one-round fighter. But after you make it past that one round, you'll beat him easily. Mansour did. Pulyaev did. Pretty simple. Dante Johnson would've, and yeah, I think by this time next year, Nick Klein will be cut. Which sucks. Again, he was a guy I was very high on. I was excited to see him in the UFC again. Looks like a good guy. Cool story. But yeah, he just fucking sucks. After round 1, so I don't know what else there really is to say. One round fighter. He ended this season Contender Series great, amazing ending. But in UFC a year later, which is what we're here to talk about, he's not been very good. Tough opponents, I'll give him that. Very tough opponents. But also fights that the Pulyaev fight at least was very winnable. He did take the fights. Yeah, what else am I meant to say? Just not great. Good way to end the season at that time. Shit fighter a year later. One round fighter. Just doesn't work in 2025. And there you go. That was week 10. Another episode where it was 2 good fighters. Del Valle and Mikulev. And Martinez, who should have got signed. Gurule and Klein are shit. Gurule's worse than Klein. I think Klein's alright, but just in round 1, Gurule's shit. Then Del Valle, Mikulev, and Martinez are good. Can't wait to see Martinez in the UFC eventually. And, yeah, fine week 10. At the time was really good, and looking back, it was alright. And, there you go. That's, you look back at everyone and everything that happened in the Season 8 of the Contender Series, 2024 season, whatever you want to call it. So, yeah, there you go. To now do a couple other side things I wanted to look at. First, let me look at, we'll begin with the fighters I was most excited for coming off of this season. So let me pause real quick and look at that. So, after the first 5 weeks, the fighters I was most hyped for were Dubin, Wellmaker, Bashi, and Kavanov. Wellmaker and Kavanov, each very good. Those two are still very good. Dubin and Bashi we talked about. Very disappointing. So, 2-2 there. Not awful, I'll take it. Could be worse. And then after the second half of the season, the 4 fighters I was most hyped for were Klein. Great scouting there, RX. Artem, again. Theonara and Dulatov, another 2-2. So, Klein and Artem, not great. Theonara and Dulatov, very good. And, yeah, so 8-8 or 4 apiece, 4 W's, 4 O's. I can kind of scout talent a little bit, not great. So, and again, if you don't believe me, you can go back on my Twitter and find these tweets from a year ago. Yeah, I literally posted, I'll take the L on the ones I was wrong, but I also got some right, so there you go. Now on the other side of the coin, from who I was most hyped for to who I thought were the worst, let me look at that. I actually did really good here, because my picks for that were Torvis Finney. That is age great, he's terrible. That Ahmed dude who got cut before his debut, that piece of shit, 2 for 2. Cortavas Romulus, 3 for 3. He had predicted that to a T. And funny enough, fighting this week, Kevin Christensen. So I went for 3 for 3 for sure. We'll see if Christensen this week. possible of going 4-4, 4-4. Hey, I might not be able to scout good fighters, but I could scout shit ones. And, yeah, I'll take it. I'll take the fucking W there. So, yeah, I would love to be wrong, because I don't want to see shit fighters in the UFC, but I'll fucking take it. Next, for the fighters who have not yet to debut, which still can't believe we gotta talk about this. There's only a few. Again, you gotta look at, I believe, we got, obviously, if you want to count that Daniel guy who's suspended, he's 1, Christensen is 2, but he's debuting this week, and Montez is 3. Outside of that, not counting Artem, who left, or Ahmed, who got cut before he even could debut, I believe that's everyone. I don't think I'm forgetting anyone, so... And again, Christensen's debuting this week, so it would just be Daniel, who's suspended for a year or 2, and then Montez, who knows when he fights. So those are the only real 2 left after this week, so hopefully they can fight 2026. Knock on some wood. And then outside of that, there is, of course I'm going to say, in hindsight, now the best and worst fighters, but I'm trying to think, is there anything else? I don't care about what was the best and worst week. A year later, who cares? Yeah, let's talk about the best and worst. We'll start with the worst. The worst signings a year later. I won't say Bruno Lopez, he's not that terrible. I'll say the top 4, at least. Gregorius Romulus, for sure. Torres Finney, for sure. I don't think Jordan Santos or Dubin are the worst, but they're not great. Musasa, he's easily on that list. He would definitely be number 3. And... I'll just say people who have fought. I won't count Ahmed or Christensen. Number 4, it might be. I won't say. I don't know about Frunze. It might be Daiar Nurgazai, to be honest. It truly might be Nurgazai. It's probably Nurgazai. So, yeah, I'd probably say it's Finney, Romulus, Musasa, and Nurgazai, I think, but there's definitely a lot of honorable mentions there, like fucking, Jordan Santos, UNT Dubin, who else? Daniel Frunze, so, I think that would be, I won't say Gurley or Klein, I don't think they're that terrible, but they're not great either, so, there you go. The snub of the season, still Martinez, I don't need to tell you that. And then, I guess really the only thing really left to talk about, unless I'm badly forgetting something or something, I'm not going to talk about knockout or fight of the season, no point, but, to talk about the best fighters overall. If I had to pick 4, and they're probably going to be thumbnail fighters, the best fighters a year later, I would say Julian Salkild, for sure. Adiba Gutierrez, for sure. Those are the top 2 that come to mind. And now you gotta have an interesting debate. Like, Lonnie and Delgado, I don't think are 2 of those guys' levels. Wellmaker's up there. Wellmaker is definitely up there. Salkild, Gutierrez, Elijah Smith is up there for sure. It's hard not to say Kevin Vallejos. Alexia Cianara is ranked, so yeah, I'd think, well, and of course the best female fighter, Alexia Cianara. Obviously, she's the only one that's ranked, or I think, the only one in the UFC that's any good. Calvary and Dubin suck, and Martinez is not in the UFC, but she would be the best. But Gutierrez and Salkild, maybe Elijah Smith. I think Kevin Vallejos has to be number 3, and number 4, You might have to say David Martinez. That'd be a tough one to dispute. I'm gonna say Wellmaker, Vallejos, Gutierrez, and Salkeld. I think those are the 4 best. But honorable mentions to Elijah Smith, David Martinez, Alexia Theonora, some very good fighters. Sung Kyu Ko, who I can't wait to see this week. Some Galani Kavanagh, Jose Delgado, a bunch of fucking fighters, but I think those are the best 4: Salkeld, Gutierrez, Vallejos, and Wellmaker. So, and I think that's that. I think that's about that. I can't really think of anything left to really talk about. Again, I don't need to go over best knockout fight of the night, because that would be like a recap. This is more of a look back. And, yeah, you're not gonna go back and watch this whole season at this point. It'd be fucking dumb. But, yeah, there you go. I hope you enjoyed it. It's a lot longer than I thought it would be, but I enjoyed it. It was fun, go in depth and really look back at a year ago, what we were thinking a year ago, and to what the reality was. And, yeah, some good, some bad, some indifferent, some great fighters, some shit fighters, some good signings, some bad signings. It was fun. I hope y'all enjoy this type of thing. I would love to do more of these. I already have other ideas, but I'll only do them if y'all want to see them, so y'all let me know. I hope y'all enjoy this, if you're actually going to make it to the end of this. Again, hour and 45 minutes, I think it's the longest video I've done in a while. But, this is exactly what I wanted to do. I've had this idea on my mind for 2 weeks now, and I've loved every second of it. It was fun. I hope you enjoyed it. I know I did. And, let's see how great this ages, because a lot of these have already not aged great a year after they happen. Let's see how my takes on them age another year or two. Again, I talked about this season, Contender Series last week. I'll do a 1 year after on this season's Contender Series as well, this time next year, so we'll see how well my takes aged there as well. I love doing videos like this where I can just go up and down a list of fighters really easily, not breaking down a fight or anything. As much as I love doing that, this is a lot easier and more enjoyable and less fucking, not effort, but less, like, thinking put into it, in terms of, like, oh, I wonder my picks, da da da. This is just fun. I hope you enjoy it. If you, let's say you didn't watch the season, or you want to look back at what happened, here you go. So, I enjoyed it. I hope you did as well, and, there you go. Not really much else to say. Great, of course, it was a great season, like always. Contender Series is always great. Hope the video was great, and maybe I'll do more retrospectives and lookbacks if you all would like, but you let me know. But as always, my voice is almost gone, and I'm tired of talking for a little bit, so let's end this by saying what we always say, and that is, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like, comment, subscribe to ourselves to go by the end of 2025. And as always, unless I'm forgetting to say something, which I don't believe I am. As always, I'd be shocked if I was free to say something after an hour and 47 minutes. As always, for my first retrospective or whatever, RX, out, good vibes, only, and always.